Okay. Okay. Good evening. Hopefully you guys can hear me. And so, welcome to ECON228, and I assume that's why all you guys are here. And so I usually, you can do what you want with the video, but most of the time, I'm going to share my screen and kind of show either like a PowerPoint presentation or something on a Word document or Excel file. And so it looks like most of you have yourself muted, which is fine. And so I don't know if you've used WebEx before. It's very similar to Zoom. I've kind of gotten used to it because we didn't have Zoom available when I started teaching online at Laverne in March, right when the pandemic started. So I got used to WebEx, and I think it's a little better at sharing material. So I think you'll get the hang of it if you haven't used it before. So I don't know if is this any of your first times using WebEx? Okay. And so let me know if there's any issues if you can't hear me or anything like that. Um, so let's see. Almost there's still a few students that have to sign in, but we'll go ahead and start now. Okay. So all of the WebEx sessions, including this one, are being recorded. And so that way, I can record all the material, and you can view it if you miss something or if you join late. And so everything that we're doing here on WebEx is going to be recorded and posted on my YouTube channel later. And so if you miss something, don't worry. Or if your Wi-Fi goes down, you lose connection, you'll have access to everything we do. So everything's being recorded, and you can watch it later, or if you want to go over something again, you can see that. All right. And it looks like, yeah, pretty much everyone has their sound off, which is good because if everyone has sound on, we get a lot of feedback. And so normally try to keep your sound off. But if you do have a question, go ahead and turn it on and just ask any questions you have. And also there's a chat feature, which I think you can see. And so I put a little welcome message, but any questions or comments, you can either unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can post anything in the chat feature and I can try to answer it there. So let me post here. Okay, so hopefully you can all see where that chat feature is and post anything there, and I'll have that chat feature open the whole time. So I'll try to keep track of that. If you want to post something or ask a question, I'll try to answer that right away. Okay. Let me. Okay, so again, I minimized the video, and so I can't see who has their video shared or not right this second. So you can leave it shared, you can take it off, whatever. But I usually have the video minimized when we start doing the class, and so you can do what you want with that. But you won't. The video is minimized right now. So let's go ahead and assume that everyone can access the Blackboard page, which is this one here. And so we'll go through some of the things on here in a minute. And I think the first thing we can do is kind of look over the syllabus. And so, again, if there's any general comments or questions, you can unmute yourself or post anything to the chat there. Okay. All right. So I emailed, unless you added late, I sent an email maybe a week ago with the syllabus and the information for WebEx and some other things. And so let's go ahead and look at the syllabus. So this is the same syllabus I emailed if you looked over that, but just to go over a few things here on the Blackboard page under syllabus. All right. And so just also under syllabus under Blackboard, this is the university's coronavirus information. You can check that for updates. I'm not sure if some of you are living on campus, or I'm not sure of all the current situations, but anything that's updated for university policy contained or related to that is updated here. And there's also another active link for accessibility services. Okay, that should be up to date. And so if you need any special considerations like more time or anything like that, please let me know, and I can accommodate those pretty easily. All right, so here's the syllabus. All right. So again, this is the same thing I emailed you, but just to go over it. So this is Econ 228, and the title is Economic Theories and Issues. I treat this as an introductory economics class, and so I don't assume that you have any prior knowledge in economics, and so we'll start from the basics, and we will do a little bit of math, a little bit of algebra, but nothing too advanced. So we'll do some graphing, a little bit of math, and we'll cover a lot of basic economic concepts. Okay, but again, you don't have to know anything. There's no prior knowledge required for this class. So here's my full name, James Joseph Hoffman. I usually go by Jake. You can call me that if you like. That's what I normally go by. I have my cell number on here in case you need to reach me, and my university email. I'm usually pretty good at checking emails. And so if you have a more detailed question, you can send me an email, and I'll try to get back to you pretty soon. Okay, so there's that information. Let's right here. Okay, the textbook that I'm going to be using is this one, and so it's the fourth edition of Essentials of Economics. And so I don't know if usually on day one, not a lot of students have the textbook, and so I like to say just to be just to give students kind of the option. I usually say that the textbook is uh, it's it's optional but recommended, and so I'm not going to force you to buy it. And so let me kind of post that here. Okay, and so the text is optional but recommended. And so what I mean by that is that's the kind of the text I based all the material and the lectures on. Um, and so it can't hurt if you have it. It's can only help you because you can kind of read some of the material that go along with the chapters. And so it's kind of up to you. Yeah, I'd recommend getting it, but I've seen a lot of students not get it and do very well in the class. And so you can kind of, if you have it, I mean, I might as well keep it and see and read the chapters as we go along. But I'm going to give you a lot of material and a lot of practice assignments and stuff like that. And so you can, if you don't have it and didn't know about it yet, you can kind of go a few weeks or so and see if you want to get it or not. But I'm going to base a lot of the material on it. But again, I'm not going to force you to buy the textbook. So I like to say that it's recommended, but it's technically optional. All right. And so I don't know, does anyone have the textbook yet? At this point? No. Thumbs down. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Someone's yeah. All right. So yeah, if you have it, I'm not sure if you got it through the university or through Amazon, but if you have it, I'd recommend keeping it because it's. Oh, great. Okay. So sometimes no one has it the first day, so we've already got a good start. So yeah. So there's the text I'll be using, and again, I'm going to say it's recommended but optional. So you can kind of take that as you will. All right. So these, if you scroll down to the section 5, these are the topics. These are the chapters in the material that I want to try to cover, kind of for each day. And so I have what I have here is the topic and the chapter in the textbook, and then the due date for the homework assignments. And so there's nothing due today, obviously, but you'll have homework that's due pretty much every Monday, so once a week. Um, the first assignment will be due next in a week from today, so next Monday, starting then. So the first assignment's not due till week 2. Okay, so we're gonna try to cover 2 chapters because they're both pretty short, and so I normally do either one main chapter, or kind of if there's something I can combine and kind of shorter chapters, we might do 2, and so I kind of have them grouped that the chapters I want to spend more time on, it's just one chapter that day, and chapters like today, there's not a whole lot in chapter 2. We can easily do 2 chapters today, or not 2 full chapters, but the materials I want to cover. Okay, so we'll cover the main points from chapters 1 and 2 today, and then we'll get to the homework assignments. But the homework assignments for chapters 1 and chapter 2 will be due next Monday, and we'll come back to this. But on the Blackboard page, you'll see that there's a bunch of discussion forums that are already preset, and so each of these is a forum for the homework assignments. And so when you complete the homework assignments, just go to the appropriate forum, and you can create a thread and post your homework assignment. And so you'll have that's where you'll turn in the assignments when we get to those. So right there in that discussion forum. Okay, and all right. So this is kind of the outline. So the first 5 topics, or I guess first 4 or 5 topics, first 5 chapters, we'll kind of go for material for the first take-home exam, which won't be assigned till week 5, I think. All right, and then I kind of break the class into thirds, and so we'll do this stuff, and that'll be the material for the first take-home exam. Then there's a spring break, so make sure what day is that? Monday, March 15th. We're not supposed to have class that day because it's spring break, so I'll leave the meetings. I mean, the meetings technically going to be it's going to come up on your calendar, but let's just I'm not going to be here that day because that's spring break. So just make a note, or just look at the syllabus when we get to March 15th. No class that day. Oh, let's see. So will there be class on February 15th due to President's Day? Is that next week? I don't think President's Day is an observed holiday for the university, as far as I know, or is it? And I don't know. Let me see. Oh, I guess so. Oh, I didn't even know that was. Good thing you told me that, because I don't. Maybe that day doesn't usually come up on, or okay. I guess so. President's Day is observed. Is that correct? Am I saying that right? So we're not supposed to have class next Monday. Is that correct?
Yeah. The only reason why I asked, 2 of my classes are just not having it, so it's not a big deal for me. But I just wanted to ask, just the plan.
Well, I mean, well, I have to follow the university, because if it says we have to observe it, then we have to observe it. And so
Okay.
it says right here that President's Day observed, and so I'm positive that means we're not supposed to have class. I didn't, for some reason that didn't, I didn't see that when I was planning. So that's gonna, I guess I'm gonna have to adjust things, but yeah, all right, so I guess there's no class next Monday.
Cool.
Because that's next Monday, right? No, that's in 2 weeks. Sorry. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So no class on February 15th because that's President's Day, and that's an observed holiday for the semester. And so I'll go ahead. I'll have to adjust some things, but um, it's not going to affect today. So now I got to redo the dates and everything. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for pointing that out because that didn't cross my mind. All right. So aside from that, I think the syllabus is going to be fine. Not sure how I'm going to arrange things, but anyways, all right. So we have a spring break, and so we have class today, next Monday, then no class, and then three more meetings, then another break, and then it continues. Okay. All right. Well, this is definitely the schedule for the first 2 weeks, so that's going to be fine, and but no meeting on the 15th. Okay. All right, so we'll kind of start with an intro to economics, then we'll do some basic economic things like supply and demand, elasticity, and then we'll get into some more around week 6 or 7 or 8. We'll get into more different types of markets, how firms make decisions, and then the last part of the class, chapters 10 through 15. That's the macroeconomic stuff. So we'll get into all the big macro concepts. So we'll kind of do intro first, then micro, then macro, kind of how the textbook is organized. All right, and then these are the class meets every Monday from at 6:50. So I put all the meetings there. I put in the spring break, and then again I'll have to adjust it. So week 3 is we're not meeting that day either. Okay, and then so this is the grading breakdown. I just put attendance at 5%. I'm not going to take attendance every class. I'm only going to take attendance if students start to fall behind and start missing assignments. And so as long as students are keeping up with assignments, I'm just going to give you guys the attendance points. But if it becomes a problem with material not being turned in, then I'll start taking attendance. But for now, everybody gets full attendance points. Okay. And there'll be homework assignments every week, and there's going to be a bunch of them because we have 15 or 16 weeks. And so that'll be the bulk of your grade. That'll be 50% homework assignments. And the remaining 45% is split for the 3 take-home exams. So you have a midterm 1, another midterm 2, and a final exam. All take-home, nothing is timed. And so they're pretty much like long homework assignments. And those will each be 15%, and the due dates are on here on the syllabus. Okay. Grading policy is just standard by the university. And yeah, so the main thing here, aside from the the meeting that's not going to occur on week 3 on the February 15th, everything else should be accurate. But yeah, so um, any any general questions so far, or anything on the syllabus that we have questions about? Okay, well, so there's the syllabus. I think I went through the main points, and we'll try to keep to that schedule and the outline there. Again, aside from the date that's President's Day. Okay, and so what we're going to do today is cover the material I have for Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Actually, let's go through a few more things on Blackboard just to familiarize you with the page. So, okay, so here under discussions, again, this is where you're going to turn in all the assignments in the appropriate discussion forum. So the Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 homework, you need to post it here before next Monday. Okay, so we'll get to the homework assignments later, but all the homework assignments go in the spot here. If you scroll down, you'll see study guides, and so I prepared study guides for each of the chapters. And so here are the study guides for chapters 1, chapter 2, and so on. So all of those are there. That we'll cover the chapter 1 and chapter 2 material today, but everything else is on there. Okay, and then there's PowerPoints for each of the chapters here. Um, the homework assignments are here, and so we'll come back to chapters 1 and chapter 2 homework here. And after the due date for the homework assignments, I'll post the solutions. So there's nothing here yet because we haven't had any assignments due, but after the due dates, I'll start posting solutions for the homeworks right there. And then there's some stuff for each of the midterms and the final in these sections. All right, so this is later down the road, but there's stuff there if you want to look ahead. All right, then the last thing on the Blackboard page, here's my YouTube page that I'm going to post the videos to after the completion of the meetings. So if you click on this, if you go to playlists, and you want to obviously go to ECON228. Okay, and then once we're done tonight, I'll post today's video either tonight or tomorrow morning. And so it'll be organized by date, and so you should be able to go to the ECON228 playlist and view the video for after each lecture. Okay, so everything that we do in the sessions is being recorded, and you can view it, and it's going to be there. Okay, so I think that's the introductory stuff. I wanted to go through the syllabus, kind of show you guys around the Blackboard page. And in a minute, we'll start doing the material for chapter 1 and chapter 2. Everybody good? Any questions before we start doing we start doing new material? Okay, so let's go ahead and I want to cover the main points or the key things from chapters 1 and chapter 2. So we'll start with chapter 1. And so if you want to go to the study guide section here, you can open up the chapter 1 with note solutions. I'm going to open up this. Sometimes I do some stuff in Excel, Microsoft Excel as well. And so if you want, you can open up the examples chapter 1, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. And then I'm also going to open up the PowerPoint for chapter one, and so we'll kind of go through the study guide in the PowerPoint to start for chapter one. So back here. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and I don't know why that goes 5 through 1, but chapter 1 PowerPoint under the PowerPoint section. All right. So kind of how the study guides or how we'll go through the chapters is I kind of prepared a big study guide for each chapter or for the key points, and so I'll have a little section for key concepts that we'll go through first. I have a bunch of links to videos. We're not going to watch the videos uh, via WebEx, but you're welcome to click on the videos, and there's a lot of videos I'll include on the study guides. And so if you have some time, watch the videos. They're pretty useful and helpful given the material. Then I have some examples that we'll go through, and then I'll have a homework assignment that goes along with each chapter. Okay, so let's I guess let's go ahead and get started with chapter one. Just kind of start intro to economics. All right. So first of all, just what is the simple definition of economics? So it's a social science looking at how individuals, institutions, and society make choices under scarcity. So we're always looking at making choices, but you gotta make trade-offs because if you make a choice, you got to give up something to make that choice. Okay, and kind of the first thing you'll learn, the first concept that we'll talk about in economics is that of opportunity cost. Okay, and what that is, it's the value of a good, service, or time foregone to obtain something else. So it's kind of what you give up when you make any decision. And so whether you make a business decision or a personal decision or anything like that, the thing you gave up to make that decision is the opportunity cost. And so it's something we're going to come back to a lot. We're going to look at some graphical models to help understand it. But just to see if we get an idea of what opportunity cost is, let me post a question here. So this answer will be different for everyone probably, but can someone post what you think? What is your opportunity cost of coming to this class tonight? So what would be the opportunity cost of you attending class right now? Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So whatever the next best option is. Yeah. So yeah, so we've got you've got the idea. Right. So whatever your second best option is, that's what you're giving up to come here. So every decision you make is going to have something you give up, and so you always got to think of the opportunity cost because to make a decision or to get something, you got to give up something else. So yeah. So right. So those are all the things you gave up to come here. So that would exactly. Okay. Yeah. So everybody has a different opportunity cost because everyone has a different next best option. So those are all correct. All right. So now we'll come back to that concept, but I think we get the idea. And so we're gonna today will be kind of introductory stuff. But there's two distinct fields, I guess, or section or subsectors of economics, and those being microeconomics and macroeconomics. So if I look at, let's look at slide 8 on the chapter 1 PowerPoint. Okay. All right, so there's two very different fields of economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics. You're probably more familiar with macroeconomics because that's the more newsworthy type where you talk about like unemployment or economic growth or interest rates, things like that. So the study of the economy as a whole, or in the aggregate, or the kind of the big picture of the whole economy or the whole U.S. economy, that's macroeconomics. So that's unemployment, that's interest rates, that's GDP, that's yeah. So everything, economic growth, and so all the big picture macro stuff is by definition macroeconomics. And then the other type is microeconomics, and this is looking at how individual units make like individual decisions. So this is like a household, a family buying a house, a business hiring another worker, a bank adjusting their loan rates, things like that. So when you're looking at kind of individual decision making units or firms, that's micro economics, and when you're looking at the whole economy as a macro, that's macroeconomics. All right, so we're going to spend a lot of time on both, but probably the more the things the types of economics you hear in the news most likely are macroeconomic terms. But kind of the way this textbook is structured and the way we'll do it is we'll do kind of an intro. We'll do microeconomics first, and then the last portion, or the last 5 or 6 chapters, will be macroeconomics. All right. So, okay, so we'll come back to more of micro versus macro, but those are the main distinctions there. All right, so what I want to show you now, and this will kind of build on the concept of opportunity cost, is I want to look at our first simple model in economics, and this is called the production possibilities model. And so let me introduce this on the slides, and we'll do an example in the latter part here. So if you look at slides 14 to 16 first, let's introduce this production possibilities model. All right, so there's a couple assumptions before it's just a simple graphical model illustrating the concept of opportunity cost and kind of the production of an economy. And so these are the assumptions that we have to start with. All right, so kind of assume full employment. All right, so I mean, obviously there's unemployment, but let's make that assumption. Let's assume that there's fixed resources, and that'll give us the different points in the graph. Let's assume that there's fixed technology, and let's assume that there's two goods. All right, so obviously all these things can change. If they do change, that changes the shape of the production possibilities curve. But we'll start with these simple assumptions, and it kind of looks. You start with just a little chart that shows the production alternatives between two goods for an economy. So, for example, on the next slide, all right, so this is called a production possibilities table. And all this shows is you kind of use two goods as an example. So in this case, the two goods the economy is choosing between are pizza and industrial robots. And so the idea is that if you simplify it to two goods, it's easier to understand in the graph, but the logic applies beyond two goods. Okay, but just in terms of understanding the concept of the model and opportunity cost, you can simplify it to two goods, and you can use those findings to apply to the whole economy. So for simplicity, let's assume that this economy is only deciding between producing pizza and robots. All right, and what you see here are the production alternatives, and so what that means is that any of these points A, B, C, D, or E, okay, any of these points are attainable or able to be produced, and so you can see there's different combinations. So the economy could produce uh, no pizza and 10 robots, or they could give up a robot and produce 9 robots and I guess is 1,000 pizzas and 9,000 robots. And so these are different combinations. And so the idea here, or the point, is that uh, to produce more of the other good, you have to give up some of the other type of good. So resources are limited, and so if you want to use resources to produce more pizza, then you got to give up some of those resources. You got to give up some robots, and so vice versa. If you want to produce more robots, you have to give up some pizzas. So there's always a trade-off. Uh, if you want to produce more of one thing, the idea is that you have to give out some of the other. So the opportunity cost of producing more of one good is what you give up in producing the other good. And so here's a simple graphical analysis. And so all this is you take the points A, B, C, D, and you plot them on a graph. And so on the y-axis, this is robots, and on the x-axis, this is pizzas. And we just plotted those points and drew a line kind of connecting them. And the idea here is that uh, if the economy is maximizing its resources, it can produce any point along the curve. Okay, and then any point on the curve or below the curve is attainable, but given the current assumptions, we can't get beyond the production possibilities curve without some changes. All right, and so again, you see graphically that producing more of one good requires that you give up some of the other good. All right, and then there's a few more things on slides 19 to 22 that go along with this concept. And we're also going to do an example together, so um, we'll get some more on this. And so slides 19 to 22, if you go back to that the chapter 1 PowerPoint. All right. So that's kind of the concept, but things can change, and if things change, that can change the point of production, or it can change the shape of the curve. So if you have unemployment or growth, all right. So the production possibilities curve shows how much the economy can possibly produce, or the different combinations. So if there's any unemployment, that means that they're not using all their resources efficiently because they have some labor that's unemployed. And so unemployment would mean that you're somewhere inside the curve. Okay, so unemployment would mean that you're somewhere below this curve, because to get to the production possibilities curve, or to one of these points, you got to be using all of your resources efficiently, including labor. Okay. All right. So the idea is that moving toward full employment will increase output. So when you uh, decrease unemployment or go to full employment, then you get closer and closer to the curve. Okay, and another thing, you can use this example to show economic growth. And so economic growth can kind of shift the curve outward. And so these are some ways in which you might achieve or get economic growth. Okay, you can just have more resources. If you have more resources, you can produce more things. So more resources could lead to economic growth. You can have better resource quality. That could also lead to economic growth. Or you can have some kind of technological advance, which makes, given the same amount of inputs, you get more outputs. Like it just becomes more efficient, and technology would lead to more economic growth as well. All right, so the idea here is, so here's a different example with food products and manufacturing equipment. If you have some kind of economic growth, then the way you would show that or draw that is, all right, so if this was the original curve, A, B, C, and D, in terms of producing manufacturing equipment and food products, economic growth would represent an outward shift. So see how it goes outward like this? So if some of these things, if like you get more resources or improved resource quality or some kind of technological advance or one or more of these things, then the way you would illustrate that in terms of economic growth is now you can produce more of each type of good. So see how it kind of shifts out, and this would represent going from this ABCD curve to this A prime B prime C prime curve. That rightward shift is how you represent economic growth in this simple model. Okay, so I want to show you one more simple model, and then we'll look at some examples. So everyone doing okay so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so last major concept from chapter one I want to go over is it's called budget lines, and so let's look at slides 9 through 10 and introduce this concept, and then there's another example that we'll go through, and then there's a homework assignment question based on the budget line model as well. But let's look at slides 9 to 10 first. Okay, so the thing we just talked about, the production possibilities curve, that's an example of a macroeconomic model. And this one will be an example of a microeconomic model because the production possibilities curve, that was the economy as a whole, or the macroeconomy. This is looking at one person or one individual's choices. And so this will be a simple example of a micro model or a micro decision. So you kind of get the idea that macro is the whole economy, and micro is one individual or household or firm making a certain or specific decision. Okay, so what we're going to have here is we're going to have an individual making decisions between purchasing two different types of goods, but they have a limited budget or limited income. All right, and so they'd like to consume as much as they can of both types of goods, but again, they're limited by their budget. And so what this budget line is going to show, it's going to show the combinations that are attainable and unattainable. It's going to show the trade-offs, or another way of saying that is opportunity costs. So for example, if you want to buy more of one good, then you got to give up some of the other goods. So purchasing more of good A requires you giving up good X or good B. And so that's a simple example of opportunity costs when you're making decisions. And so you can make a choice possible, the best choice possible based on your budget or your preferences. And if you have changes in income or changes in prices of the goods, that's going to change or affect your budget line and your decision-making process. Okay, so this simple example is an example of a budget line where you have two goods. So obviously this is an outdated example because you have DVDs and books. Both these things have been kind of digitalized. I mean, I guess books are. I mean, I still buy books. I don't really buy DVDs, but okay. But the example is still holds. So on this axis, we have an individual who's deciding between buying DVDs on the y-axis and buying paperback books on the x-axis. And so you can see that where's the price? The price of the DVDs is $20, and the price of books is $10. And this individual has an income of 120. And so these are the different combinations uh, of both goods that the consumer can afford with the budget of 120. And so, for example, the consumer can buy six movies and no books, uh, 5 movies and 2 books, and so on. So these are all the combinations that would be on the consumer's budget line. And so anything on that budget line is a possible combination the consumer can buy. But you see that when you go, like if you want to buy more DVDs, you got to give up some books. Or if you want to buy more books, you got to give up some DVDs. And so the opportunity cost is what you give up in terms of the other good. All right, and then we'll see an example if your income goes up or down, the budget line changes. Or if the price of one of the goods changes, that's going to also affect the shape of the budget line. All right, so those are the main key concepts that I wanted to present from chapter 1. We still got a bunch of examples and homework assignments, and then we still have chapter 2, but okay, so just kind of the general definition of economics is kind of how individuals, institutions, and society, or the macroeconomy, make choices under scarcity. Okay, so we have an idea of what opportunity cost is. That's what you give up, or your second best option when you make a decision. Okay, we have kind of a nice intro on macro versus micro. And then we had a simple macro model, which was the production possibilities curve. And we had a simple micro model, which is the budget lines. And we'll spend a little more time going through these examples. Okay, and then there's a bunch of optional videos. There's kind of an intro to economics that I'd recommend watching. It's only like 10 minutes. There's another one on opportunity cost, and there's a couple nice little videos on the production possibilities curve. So if you got some free time, you can check out some of those videos. All right, so let's look at some examples. Okay, so still on the chapter 1 study guide. Okay, so number 1, which of the following decisions would entail the greater opportunity cost? Allocating a square block in the heart of New York City for a surface parking lot, or allocating a square block at the edge of a typical suburb for such a lot. And so the idea here is that the opportunity cost is what you give up. And so because it doesn't really matter what you're putting there, whether it's a parking lot or hotel or anything or a shopping mall. What matters is in the concept of opportunity cost is what you give up. And so the next best option for land in New York City is always going to be it's going to have more value than land at a suburb. And so just because the second best option has a higher opportunity cost, no matter what it is, that means that allocating the block in the heart of New York City for a surface parking lot would have a greater opportunity cost because the second best option it costs more. So it doesn't matter what the option is. It matters what you give up or what the second best option was.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So when you say it has a greater opportunity cost, that means you're giving up less, correct?
No, that means you're giving up more, right?
Okay.
So the if the decision or the question is which of these things has a bigger opportunity cost, that means which of these things requires you like your second best option is you're giving up more. So the second best option for a New York surface parking lot would have a bigger opportunity cost than the second best option for a parking lot at a suburb because the second best option here is going to be is going to have a higher value, right? Because the land is more valuable in New York City, and so therefore what you give up is going to be worth more, right? Just compared to the other one.
So I have a question. So basically, um, it's the New York City surface parking because it is more expensive, right?
Well, for this, yeah, for this example, yes, but that's not. I mean, the concept of opportunity cost is always what you're giving up in terms of the second best option. In this case, the second best option is uh, has a higher cost. It's not all. It doesn't always have to do with um, like the value, but in this case, it does. Just because we're looking at the second best option for this versus the second best option for this, and so I mean, unless there's another argument saying that the suburb has a higher opportunity cost for some reason, I mean, there could be, um, but the point is that whichever second best option is more is the higher opportunity cost.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Okay. All right. So yeah. Okay. So we'll come back to more of the opportunity cost concept, but number two. So this one, let's just indicate whether each of the following applies to microeconomics or macroeconomics. So I'll read a statement, and then you can see which one applies to micro and which one applies to macro. Okay, so the unemployment rate in the U.S. was 5.1% in September 2015. So that's macro because that applies to the whole economy. B, a U.S. software firm discharged 15 workers last month and transferred that work to India. So that's one firm making a decision. So that's micro. That's one firm's choice. C, this one's a little confusing. An unexpected freeze in Central Florida reduced the citrus crop and caused the price of orange trees to rise. So this is technically micro because it's only applies to one specific good, which is oranges. What was that? Okay. All right. So this one is micro because it only applies to the orange market. Um, D, U.S. output adjusted for inflation grew by 2.4% in 2014. So that's macro because that applies to inflation for the whole economy. And E, last week, Wells Fargo Bank lowered its interest rate on business loans by 1/2 of 1 percentage point. That's micro because that's one firm or bank making one decision. And then F, the consumer price index rose by 0.2% from August 2015 to August 2016. So that's macro because that's for the whole U.S. economy. So you can kind of see the key terms for macro: unemployment, output, inflation, consumer price index. So those big macro terms apply to macro, and then one specific firm or bank or person making a decision applies to micro. Okay. All right. Then number 3, let's explain how, if at all, each of the following events affects the location of a country's production possibilities curve. Okay. So we'll read a statement and we'll say if the production possibilities curve would increase or decrease or not change. So A, the quality of education increases. So that's an increase in human capital, which means that the economy is going to be more productive with its resources. So that would increase the production possibilities curve or shift it to the right. So the PPC would increase. Okay, so again, increase means it goes out like this, so that's an increase. Okay, B, this one's a little tricky, but the number of unemployed workers increases. So the answer is the PPC would not change, and that's because unemployment just represents a point inside the curve. And so what I'm saying is that if you have unemployment, you're somewhere below the curve, and an increase in unemployment or more people employed would be moving towards the no employment option, but unemployment is represented as a point inside the curve, but it doesn't change the possibility of the curve. So unemployment doesn't change the location of the curve, it just changes the point the economy is producing at. So like a lowering of the unemployment rate would be moving from a point in here towards this way. Okay. C, a new technology improves the efficiency of extracting copper from ore. That is a technological advance, so that's going to increase the production possibilities curve or shift it to the right. And D, a devastating earthquake destroys numerous production facilities. So that would decrease the curve or shift it left because that limits or contracts the possibilities that the country can produce. And so that would cause the curve to shift to the left. All right, so next one, number 4, is let's look at an actual example of a production possibilities curve problem. So here we go. Number 4 is below is a production possibilities table for consumer goods, automobiles, and capital goods forklifts. So we got here are the production alternatives for automobiles and forklifts. So point A is 40 forklifts and no autos. Point B, 2 autos and 30 forklifts, and so on. So producing more autos, you give up some forklifts, and producing more forklifts, you give up some autos. So if you just plot all these points, A, B, C, D, E, it would kind of look like this. So here's 40 and 0, 30 and 2, and then just draw the line where you got forklifts here and autos here. Okay, and so for these types of problems or for any graphical illustration, I usually do it beforehand in Microsoft Excel. So I think I opened this, but okay, so under the study guides, you see the examples chapter 1. And so you can see where I did this graph, I think, in Excel. So examples chapter 1 is right here. Yeah. All right, so for examples where you have a graph, for your homework or for your take-home exams, you can either do the graphs in Excel, or you can just draw them on graphing paper. Whatever is best for you to get the work done is fine with me. I do the graphs in Excel because it's easier for me to show them during the presentation. Like I can't really draw on the whiteboard right this second, so you can use my Excel like examples as a template if you want to do your work in Excel, or if you want to do the graphs, just draw them on a piece of paper or graphing paper with a ruler or whatever. You can do that too. So as long as you complete the exercises when we have homework assignments and so on, you can do them in Excel. You can do them on graphing paper. It's up to you. But here is, so all I did was plot those points A, B, C, and D and E for autos and forklifts, and then I just made a little graph in Excel showing that here are the different combinations right there. So all this is just plot the points, draw a little graph, and that's the production possibilities curve there. Okay. Okay, and then there's the graph from that. So part B. So part A is just to draw the graph, and the graph is just plot the points and draw the line showing the different combinations. Part B, if the economy is at point C, what's the cost of 2 more autos? Okay, so if we're here at point C, if you want to produce 2 more autos, you can see you have to give up 10 forklifts. So adding 2 autos, going from C to D, you got to give up 10 forklifts. So the cost of 2 autos is giving up 10 forklifts. And then what is the cost of 10 more forklifts? So that's going the other way from point C to point D. So to produce 10 more forklifts, you got to give up 2 autos. Right? So that's, yeah. So that's technically the opportunity cost of each kit. All right, part C, if the economy characterized by this production possibilities table and curve were producing 4 autos and 15 forklifts, what could you conclude about the use of its available resources? So just kind of look at the graph, and a point of 15 forklifts and 4 autos would be somewhere around here, right? So that's below the curve. And so if you're producing somewhere below the curve, that means you're not using, you're doing something inefficiently. So if you're producing below the curve, this automatically means the economy will be using 1 or more of its available resources inefficiently. So either we have unemployment or some use of resources not being done to full potential. Okay, so points below the curve are attainable but inefficient. Points beyond the curve are not attainable at the moment. Which brings us to part D. So part D, what would production at a point outside the production possibilities curve indicate? And so currently that would mean that's unattainable unless something changes. So given this production possibilities curve, you can't produce out here at the moment. That's unattainable. But let's list some circumstances that would allow the economy to attain such a level of production which is beyond the current PPC. So there's a couple ways the economy could produce at a point beyond the curve with a technological improvement, or another thing is a gain from trade. Among other things, but a gain from trade is something we're going to look at in chapter 16. So we'll use this simple model and extend it to two countries or two economies and show that trading with another country can lead to gains for both of the countries. All right, so we'll get to that later, but the point is we're going to come back to this type of model in chapter 16 and show how the economies can trade and both economies can gain from that trade. Okay, let me see what the question is. How does a loan factor into this? So a loan doesn't factor into this at all because these are just production alternatives, and so the point here is to illustrate like the opportunity costs of producing one good in terms of the other. So the economy or the whole macroeconomy produces a bunch of goods, and the idea here is that to produce more of one good, you got to give up some of the other. And so we're gonna get to loans in chapter 10 or so, but yeah, it doesn't really factor in yet because I mean I could factor it in just somehow, but it's yeah I wouldn't worry about that for this model. Okay, so you're welcome. So that's the simple example of the production possibilities curve, number 4. And so we'll get to loans and all those things a little bit later, but don't worry about that for now for this simple model. But any questions on this type of problem that we just did for the production possibilities curve, besides business loans? All right, so we have one more example here, number 5. Yeah, we'll go through this one, and you're going to have a homework assignment that's based on this one, which is an extension of the budget lines. So let's go through number 5, which is about budget lines, and then, yeah. Sure. So number 5, suppose you won $15 on a lotto ticket at the local 7-Eleven and decide to spend all of the winnings on candy bars and bags of peanuts. The price of candy bars is 75 cents and the price of peanuts is $1.50. So what we're saying here is your budget is $15. You're deciding between two goods, and the prices of those goods are there. And so this equation is the simple equation for a budget line where Px is the price of good X, X is the amount of good X, Py is the price of good Y is good Y, and then M is your income. So what we're saying is that if you have a two good example, and this is your income, you have to spend your income on one or both of the goods. So you can either buy this much X at that price, or that much Y at that price, or some combination of both. But what you spend on X plus what you spend on Y has to exhaust your income. Okay? So the simple budget line equation looks like that, where one good goes to good X with that price, and one good goes to good Y with its price, and then M is income. So for this example, let's assume X is candy bars and Y is bags of peanuts. All right, and so we got the price of good X, which was candy bars, is 75 cents. And the price of peanuts, which was good Y, is $1.50. So we put in that price there. So PX is 0.75 times X, and PY is 1.5 times Y, and then the income is 15. So you can use this little general equation and put in your values for the prices and income to get the budget line that's specific to this example. So for this example, the budget line is 0.75x plus 1.5y equals 15. Okay. All right, so we see that there. Okay, and then A, let's construct a table showing the alternative combinations of the two products that are available. And so what you want to do here is list the possible combinations that you can buy peanuts and candy bars that would exhaust your income or your budget of 15. Okay? And so what you see is that you can buy all candy, you can buy all peanuts, or you can buy some combination in between. Okay? And if you list the combinations, so like, here are the prices. So 0.75 times 20 would equal 15. 0.75 times 18 plus 1.5 times 1 would equal 15. And all these combinations, given the prices, all right, so you're putting in these values for X and these values for Y, and all these combinations would separately equal 15. So these are different ways in which you can spend the $15 to purchase or consume both combinations of the goods. Okay, and so this little chart and the graphs we're about to see, I did this in Excel as well, and so you can look at my example in Excel, which is right here. Okay, so what I did, and you can use this as a template if you want to do this type of problem in Excel. So see how I listed the different ways I can get income of 15. And so what I put is a simple formula which shows essentially the budget line. So the price of good X times how much X we buy, plus the price of good Y times how much Y we buy, and all the different ways we can get to 15. Okay, so see how 20 candy bars and no peanuts gives us 15. All right, also 18 candy bars and one bag of peanuts gives us 15. And yeah, all these different combinations are possible ways you can spend the $15. Okay, then part B is let's plot the data. Plot the data in your table as a budget line in a graph. Okay, so if you do it in Excel, you can draw a graph of the points, or you can just draw them manually. So either way, you want to plot the points you just listed in your table. Okay, so see how I had Excel just plot these different points. So this is one point, this is another point, and then all those points together, right, make up your budget line. So here's 20 and 0, here's 18 and 1, here's 16 and 2, and all you have to do is plot those points, right, and just draw a line, and that is your budget line. So you can't buy more than 10 bags of peanuts, you can't buy more than 20 candy bars, and you can buy these different combinations of the goods in between. Okay, so the budget line is just plotting the points that make up the combinations that exhaust your income, and in this case, income of 15. Okay, and then we're still in part B. So what's the slope of the budget line? Okay, so the slope of the budget line is always going to be negative of the price ratio, because the price ratio determines what the opportunity cost of one good is compared to the other. So you can use this simple identity to list the slope of the budget line. It's just negative px over py, or negative the price of good x divided by the price of good y. So if you start with this, just plug in the price of good x, which is 0.75, and the price of good y, which is 1.5 or 150, and then divide the two, and you get the slope of this budget line is negative 1/2. So because the budget line is constant, the slope of this budget line is always negative 1/2. Okay, and then opportunity cost. So what is the opportunity cost of one more candy bar? And then also, what's the opportunity cost of one more bag of peanuts? So this is just saying, when you buy more of one good, what do you give up in terms of the other good? So let's start with candy bars. All right, so if you look at the table we made, you can see that every time you buy 2 candy bars, you give up 1 bag of peanuts, right? So plus 2 minus 1. So no matter what, if you gain 2 candy bars, you had to give up 1 bag of peanuts. So to gain 2 candy bars, it's a minus 1, or you lose 1 bag of peanuts. Okay, and so if you put that just in terms of 1 candy bar, just divide by 2. All right, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. So this means that 1 candy bar is equivalent to giving up half a bag of peanuts. So the opportunity cost of 1 candy bar is giving up half a bag of peanuts. Okay, and then for the peanuts, it's going to be the reciprocal, or see, every time you buy 1 bag of peanuts, you give up 2 candy bars. All right, so that means that the opportunity cost of a bag of peanuts is minus 2 candy bars. Okay, and then the last part here for part B is, do these opportunity costs rise, fall, or remain unchanged as each additional unit of the product is purchased? So because it's a constant budget line, the opportunity costs are going to stay constant, because right, every time you gain candy bars, you give up the same amount of peanuts, and vice versa. So it's a constant budget line, which means that these opportunity costs remain constant as each additional unit of the product is purchased. So the opportunity costs are the same as you go along the budget line. Okay, and then part C is we're going to shift the budget line, because we're going to get some more income. So in this example, let's suppose part C that you had won $30 in your ticket, not 15. So let's show the $30 budget line in the diagram. And once we do that, well, let's do that first. Okay, so I did that down here. And again, everything's the same. The prices, the concept, the only difference is or income went up. And so now our income is 30, not 15. So now see how we're instead listing the combinations that give us 30, which essentially means double of both the things. So see how you can buy at 75 cents, you could buy 40 candy bars or no peanuts. That spends $30. You could buy 36 candy bars, 2 bags of peanuts. That's also $30. And all these combinations up to buying only peanuts, which in that case would be no candy bars and 20 peanuts at 150. All right, so with a budget of 30, the most peanuts you can possibly buy are 20. The most candy bars you can possibly buy are 40, or you can buy some combination of both in between on the budget line here. So the new budget line is just graphing the new points that get us to $30. Okay, so essentially what happened is this budget line shifted out, and so it kind of went out like this. So these are on this budget line we can consume more of both of the goods. Okay, so there's that one showing the new or the extra combinations we can get when our budget line increases. And so we showed the $30 budget line, and then why would this budget line be preferable to the old one? So that's just because you can consume more, both of the goods. So this budget line be preferable to the old one because the individual can consume twice as many candy bars or twice as many bags of peanuts at the same prices, 75 cents and $1.50. So the prices didn't change, but the consumer's budget doubled. Okay. All right, so that's the gist of this example. Questions on this type of problem? Okay, everybody good on what we did here? Does everything make sense? All right. Okay. Well, all right. So again, for the problems that require graphs, you can use my Excel examples and kind of use that as a template and do the graphs and the charts in Excel, or if you want to just do it on graphing paper and do it by hand, you can do that as well. So it's up to you how you want to complete the graphs and things that for the problems. All right, so for chapter 1, we went through the key concepts. There's the optional videos, and we went through all the examples. So we're done with the chapter 1 study guide. Okay, so let me show you the homework assignment for chapter 1. And we still have chapter 2 to do, but chapter 2 is really short. So first, if you go to homework assignments on Blackboard, you'll see here's the homework for chapter 1. Click on that. All right, so there's just one problem for chapter 1, similar to what we just did. And so this is your homework question for chapter 1. So let me just run through this and then let me know if you have any questions. So suppose you have a budget of 120 and you decide to spend all of your income on whiskey and pancake mix. And the price of whiskey is $40 per bottle and the price of pancake mix is $10 a box. And so part A, we're going to make a little table showing the alternative combinations of the two products that are available. Part B, you're going to plot the data or plot the budget line, and then you're going to find the slope of the budget line and the opportunity cost of both types of goods. Part C, you're going to get your budget's going to increase to 400. Okay, so you show the new budget line with the increase in income. And then part D, we didn't do this, but I think you'll get the idea that when one of the prices changes, it kind of changes the shape or the intercept. So part D, suppose the price of a box of pancakes increases to 20. And just with that price change, when the price of the good changes, draw the new budget line with that change. Okay? So it's pretty similar to what we just did in the last example. Okay, and so when you finish this one for chapter 1, you can just post your answer sheet right here for under discussion forums. You'll see the chapter 1 homework. Click on that and click on create thread. All right, and then just make a little post and attach your homework assignment to the thread there. All right, so it's you can use whatever type of file you want. I usually say that like a Word document or a PDF are preferred. Okay, so when you finish your homework question or your homework assignments, if you could put it into a Word document or a PDF and just post that to your homework assignment, that would be preferred. So you can do a Word document or a PDF, or if you have to do some other type of format, then you can let me know. But those are the ones that are kind of easiest for me to look at. So try to put your answer sheet in one of those two formats and post that to the discussion forum there. Okay, so questions on what I want you to do for the chapter 1 homework problem? Everyone okay doing this one? And if you have questions on any of the homeworks, they're not due until the next week. So this one is due next Monday. So if you have questions throughout the week, you can send me an email and I can try to help you. But any questions at the moment on what I want you to do for this homework problem? All right, so let's chapter 2 is short, but let's do chapter 2. So if you go to, all right, so we're done with chapter 1, but you got to do your homework assignment for chapter 1, which is due there by next Monday. Back to Blackboard. If you go to study guides and open up the chapter 2 study guide, the chapter 2 with note solutions, we'll look at that right now. Okay, and then if you want to open up the PowerPoint for chapter 2, Okay, so here we go. So chapter 2. All right, so there's a few key concepts I want to talk about here, and then we'll look at the example from this chapter. So the first thing is the circular flow model, which is on slide 18. All right, so here's this. So we're not going to spend too much time on this, but this always comes up in kind of introductory economics models. And so this is a representation of what's called the circular flow model, which is how businesses and households are kind of interconnected. Okay, so there won't be any homework questions or test questions on this, but let me kind of explain this little flow chart. All right, so you can kind of start with let's start with businesses over here. And so businesses or firms, they buy resources and sell products. Okay, so let's start with the blue line on the outside. So businesses get revenue by selling their goods in the product market. All right, so the product market is where businesses sell and households buy. So businesses or firms get revenue from that, but they have costs that go into their production process, and they pay those costs to the resource market, and that's where the households sell and the businesses buy. So this is kind of the firm's revenue and their costs, and then if they make a profit, it's the additional revenue minus the costs. Okay, and so households, they sell their labor, land, and capital and entrepreneurial ability to the resource market, and they get money and income and wages from that, and they buy things from the product market. Okay, so this outside one is how the households and businesses are connected in that way. And on the inside, you can see the way the resources flow back this way. So businesses sell goods and services in the product market. Households buy those goods and services, and they do that by selling their land, labor, capital to the resource market, which goes to the businesses. So the point is that you can't have one without the other, and this is how the households and businesses are kind of interconnected. And the firms have a profit of what they have in addition, or if the revenue exceeds costs, then they have a profit. And households, in theory, if they have more income than they have expenses, they can buy additional things. All right, so the scarce resources we just referred to that households sell to the firms, there's kind of 4 types of scarce resources in the economy that we group them in. Okay, so the first type of resource is land, and that's just the physical land where the business takes place. Labor is the labor hours or labor units that go into these are like the man hours that go into the production process. Capital is any physical capital, so this is like machinery, computers, equipment, trucks, office buildings. So any physical capital that goes into the business process goes into the capital grouping. And entrepreneurial ability is kind of the managerial decisions that go into the business. So when managers or firms take initiatives, have innovations, they make specific decisions or take risks, that goes into the entrepreneurial ability category. So these are the 4 types of scarce resources that firms are limited by. So the point is that firms want to produce as much as they can, but they're limited by these scarce resources. All right, and we're going to look at a little example real quick, a simple kind of profit maximizing choice where firms make revenue, they have costs, and the simple relation there is that profit for a business or for a firm is total revenue minus total cost. So if they make a profit, that's the excess that they get when you add up the revenue and you subtract the cost. And so profit is just total revenue minus total cost in the simple identity here. Okay. So there's a couple optional videos, one on economic systems, one, this is just a web link for like an updated index of economic freedom. You can look at that. And then this is a little video on the circular flow, if you want to look at those optional videos. Okay. All right, so let's look at an example that I got from chapter 2, or that I kind of wrote for chapter 2. All right, so the main things from chapter 2 are just kind of how the circular flow works, and then the scarce resources that firms are limited by, and then kind of what goes into the simple profit calculation, which is just revenue minus cost. Okay, and then based on this, let's look at an example. Or number 1, example chapter 2. Here we go. With current technology, let's suppose a firm is producing 400 loaves of banana bread daily. And let's also assume that the least cost combination of resources in producing those loaves is 5 units of labor, 7 units of land, 2 units of capital, and 1 unit of entrepreneurial ability. So those are the 4 types of scarce resources that go into the production process. And so those are the amounts of those resources that this firm needs. Okay, and the prices they have to pay for those resources are 40, 60, 60, and 20 respectively. So the price of labor is 40, the price of a unit of land is 60, the price of a unit of capital is 60, and the price of a unit of entrepreneurial ability is 20. All right, and then if the firm can sell those 400 loaves at $2 per unit, what is its total revenue, its total cost, and its profit or loss? Okay, so let's start with total revenue. Okay, so total revenue, or TR, for a firm, and this is just a one good example, and so if the price per unit is $2 and they sell 400, then the revenue for a one good business is just how much they sell times the market price of that good. So it's just one good, so the price of that good times the quantity they sell is the revenue, right? So price times quantity. And so in this case, the price is $2. They sell 400 loaves, and so that gives them a total revenue of $800. All right, and then for the cost, you want to sum up all the cost of all the resources separately and then add them all together for your total cost. Okay, so we got those 4 types of scarce resources. So we have resource cost 1, which is labor. We have resource cost 2, which is land. We have resource cost 3, which is capital. And we have resource cost 4, which is the entrepreneurial ability. And so you want to add up those costs separately. So remember, we got those. So we need 5 units of labor. Each unit is $60. So there's the 5 times 60. 5 units of labor, and that costs $40 per unit. So there's the 5 times 40 for labor. We need 5, and they cost 40. Okay. For land, we need 7, and they cost 60. So 7 times 60. For capital, we need 2. Those cost 60. So 2 times 60 is for capital. And then for entrepreneurial ability, we need 1. Or do we need 1? Yeah, we need 1, and it costs 20. So these are the 4 separate costs for each of the 4 scarce resources. If you add all those together, you should get 760. Okay, so we got total revenue, we got total cost, and then profit is defined as just total revenue minus total cost. Now this can be negative, so if costs are higher than revenue, then the firm is taking a loss. But in this case, revenue is 800 minus our cost of 760. That gives us a daily profit of $40. Okay, so this firm's total revenue is 800. Its total cost is 40. Its profit is, I mean, its total cost is 760 and the profit is 40. Will it continue to produce banana bread? And if this firm situation is typical for the other makers of banana bread, will resources flow toward or away from this bakery good? All right, so if firms are making a profit, I mean, if this firm's making a profit, they're going to keep doing that, right? And if other firms that have similar resources are not doing as well, and they see the banana bread industry is doing better, they might shift resources toward this good. So if like I don't know, what's a firm that's making beignets or something that's taking a loss, they could possibly shift some of their resources and make this more profitable banana bread, if possible. And so the idea here is that here's the simple for a one good firm. This is how you calculate revenue, cost, and profit. And if they're making a profit, they're going to keep doing it. And then other firms that have similar resources, if they see that this firm is more doing better than they are, they might shift their production to produce that good instead. Okay. All right. Questions on this example here for the revenue, cost, and profit? Okay. So let me. So there's another homework question that goes along for chapter 2 that's similar to that one. So let me find that and I'll show you this one. So if you go to homework assignments again. All right. So you have 2 this week, but they're both pretty short. They're just one question each. So we went over the chapter 1 homework. Let's look at the chapter 2 homework question. All right. So here you go. One problem that goes with chapter 2, similar to what we just did. So with current technology, you have an In-N-Out burger that's producing 500 burgers, and you need this many units of land, labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurial ability, and those are the prices. And the firm's going to sell these 500 burgers daily at $3 per burger. Okay, so you just have to calculate revenue for this firm, total cost and profit, and then if they're making a profit, note they're going to continue to produce. And if other firms have similar resources, will they flow towards this good or away, depending on if it's making a profit or not. All right, so that one should be very similar to the one we just did as an example. So you can look at that one. Okay, and then the chapter 2 homework is going to be due here. So uh, put so when you finish your chapter 1 homework, post that in your chapter 1 discussion forum. And when you finish the chapter 2 homework, post that here in the chapter 2 discussion forum. So just a separate document for each. And both of those are due next Monday. All right. Questions on the homework for chapter 2? Everyone good on this question? This one's probably easier than the first one, but just okay. Everyone knows what to do for this one. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. All right. So we got through the stuff I wanted to cover for chapter 1 and chapter 2, and so again, the chapter 1 homework and chapter 2 homework are both due by next Monday. Just like the syllabus says. And then let me know if you have any questions on those homework assignments. You can send me an email. But if you don't have any problems, just whenever you finish those, you can post those to discussion forum. Next Monday, we're going to cover supply and demand. So we'll spend all meeting on that, chapter 3. And then I guess I'm going to have to adjust the syllabus because this day is a holiday. Or sorry, this day is a holiday, but all right. So these 2 homework assignments due next Monday. We'll do this chapter 3 next week. Okay. I think, and then again, I'll post this video for today's session in case you want to look at the examples or see anything again on my YouTube channel, either later tonight or tomorrow morning. So you should be able to see that. And yeah. All right. So I think that's what I want to cover for tonight. Let me know if you have any questions about the homework, but if not, I will see everyone next Monday at the same time, and we'll cover supply and demand. So thank you all for joining. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you in a week, same place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.